What is the answer? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, that happened prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. I said that.
Do you know, sitting here, whether he took the money?
All I know is that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Patel said there was no case. And Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy human beings I know.
So
and,
was she?
Senator Schiff, if you worked for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress for lying.
What we just watched was not oversight. It was a character assassination disguised as a congressional hearing. Senator Adam Schiff, the master of political theater, just launched one of the most disgusting and baseless attacks on a sitting attorney general we have ever seen. And you need to see how she shut him down. Folks, this is the radical left's entire strategy on full display. Throw mud and hope some of it sticks. Before we dive into the details of this shameful spectacle, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get the truth out to as many people as possible.
We can stipulate to, you can stipulate to all your personal attacks on the Democratic members of the committee.
Personal attacks? You've been attacking my FBI director. You've been attacking my office. You've been attacking.
But what we're interested in,
borders are.
What we're interested in is the answer to these oversight questions.
You want your,
so
no,
you were asked by my colleague. You were asked by my colleague.
Attacking good people.
Regular order, Madam Chair, so I can ask a question. You were asked by my colleague from Vermont whether you will support providing a video or audio tape, if it exists, of Mr. Homan taking $50,000 in bribe money from the FBI. Will you support a request by this committee to provide that tape or tapes to the committee? Yes or no?
Senator Schiff, you can talk to Director Patel about that.
Well, I'm talking to you about it. You're the Attorney General. This will be your decision. Will you support?
You don't have to tell me what is my decision and what is not my decision. I said you can talk to Director Patel.
You don't have to try to.
You think you've got a gotcha with Tom Homan, our borders are.
Excuse me.
Who's been out there fighting for our country since Donald Trump took office.
I'm trying to ask a question. Regular order, please. And you don't have to defer to the FBI director to pass the buck. So I'm asking you, will you support a request so that the committee, or indeed I believe the American people, should be able to see that video or audio tape? Will you support that request?
Will you apologize to Donald Trump for trying to impeach him?
I guess the answer is you won't support that request.
After you now know that Joe Biden tried to cover up Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine.
Excuse me. Let me do this, because I think it's valuable that the American people get a sense of what you've refused to answer today. So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, law degree,
excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders. You wouldn't even answer that question. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Oversight?
Excuse me, you can attack me after my time is over.
You've attacked all of us, including President Trump, for your entire career.
You can attack me later, and I know you've got plenty of canned attacks. We've heard them all day today.
Canned
But
attacks on you?
This is supposed
No
to be...
one needs a canned attack on you.
Regular order, Madam Chair. I'm trying to speak. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing of the Justice Department. And it comes in the wake of an indictment called for by the president of one of his enemies. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing, and it comes in the wake of revelations that a top administration official took $50,000 in a bag, and this department made that investigation go away. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing when dozens of prosecutors have been fired simply because they worked on cases investigating the former president. This is, and now
What
the
about
current
the
president.
fires in California?
And
Do you
this
care
is
about that,
supposed to
Senator
be,
Schiff?
this is supposed to be an oversight hearing in which members of Congress can get serious answers to serious questions about the
Are the
cover-up,
riots in
about the
LA
cover-up,
serious?
about the cover-up of corruption, about the prosecution of the president's enemies. And
I think you owe the president an apology.
when will it be
Your entire career,
that
frankly.
the members of this committee on a bipartisan basis demand answers to those questions and refuse to accept
Clearly you're
personal,
a failed lawyer
refuse
because
to
you don't
accept,
understand when
excuse
someone
me,
can and cannot
refuse
answer
to
a
accept
question.
personal slander as an answer to those questions.
Personal slander.
With
Will
that,
you
Madam
apologize
Chair,
to Donald
I yield
Trump
back.
for slandering him? Personal slander.
Senator Bondi.
May I ask unanimous consent, Madam Chair, to introduce into the record the statement of 1,000 former Justice Department officials who warned that the Comey indictment is a democracy-threatening abuse of power. May I also request unanimous consent for the introduction into the record of 282 former career officials at the Justice Department raising an alarm who were voluntarily or involuntarily forced to leave the department because of improper actions taken by the Department of Justice. May I introduce, with unanimous consent, the Justice Department manual that talks about when initiating and declining charges are subject to impermissible considerations. And finally, Madam Chair, may I introduce the letter from Michael Ben-Ari, a career counterterrorism prosecutor, DOJ, a letter he nailed to his door, which concludes by urging officials to do the right thing for the right reasons, to follow the facts and the law, and raises the alarm that the decision to remove experienced career officials from U.S. attorneys' offices, the FBI, and critical parts of DOJ undermines our country's abilities to counter terrorist organizations, malign nation-state actors, and countless others that seek to harm our nation and its citizens. And he believes that the priority is prosecuting the president's enemies
or are you admitting
rather than
Bondi,
protecting
Ms.
the
Bondi,
country.
one moment.
May I have unanimous
Are you
consent to enter
entering
these
that
into the record?
Without objection.
Friends, what you witnessed was Senator Schiff, a man censored by Congress for lying, attempting to lecture Attorney General Pam Bondi on ethics. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Schiff's opening salvo was pure, unadulterated narrative claiming a mass exodus of prosecutors because they were forced to take unethical actions. This is a tired, unsubstantiated talking point that the left uses every single time a strong conservative is appointed to the DOJ. It's a political attack, not an objective observation. Then, Schiff zeroes in on the bizarre, unproven allegation against Tom Homan, attempting to paint the Department of Justice as running a criminal conspiracy to protect the former president's allies. The heart of his claim is that Homan supposedly took $50,000 in cash, an allegation that was already investigated and closed by the Justice Department, with the FBI director himself confirming there was no evidence that Homan committed a crime. This investigation was closed before AG Bondi even took office. But Schiff, ever the prosecutor turned political activist, wouldn't let it go. He relentlessly hounds the Attorney General, demanding to know if Homan took the money and if she would support turning over tapes for a closed, dismissed case. Attorney General Bondi's response was flawless. She refused to play his gotcha game. She correctly stated that the matter was handled before her tenure and that her deputy and the FBI director found no case. Schiff's insistence that she must apologize to him or support his partisan request is not oversight. It is an abuse of congressional power designed to slander a good man, Tom Homan, and harass the Attorney General. The most revealing part of this entire exchange is when Schiff lists all the questions he claims the Attorney General refused to answer. What were these serious questions? They were a laundry list of Democratic talking points and conspiracy theories. The alleged Qatar gift, flagging President Trump's name in Epstein documents, the internal workings of the James Comey indictment, and the firing of career prosecutors involved in the January 6 cases. Let me be clear. This is not oversight. This is a political opposition fishing expedition. Schiff wasn't seeking information. He was seeking sound bites to validate the radical left's prepackaged narrative that the DOJ is weaponized against them. He tried to corner her, but AG Bondi, a lifelong prosecutor and public servant, refused to be trapped. She stood strong and refused to dignify his personal attacks with a substantive response. She knows, as we do, that the job of the Attorney General is to follow the law, not to perform political theater for a disgraced congressman who desperately wants to remain relevant. This hearing exposed one thing, and it wasn't corruption in the DOJ. It exposed the rot of political desperation in the heart of the Democratic leadership. AG Pam Bondi successfully defended the integrity of her office against a relentless and unfair assault. The real question is, when will Congress stop this constant, toxic cycle of political slander and return to the legitimate business of governance? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did Pam Bondi handle this perfectly? Or should she have gone further? Let me hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back soon with more facts and analysis. God bless.